If the Earth is a globe and is 25,000 English statute miles in circumference, the surface of all standing water must have a degree of convexity. Every part must be an arc of a circle. And that is a necessity in order for the official model to work. However, we all know, based on our experiences, that the natural physics of water is to be level. Even a small child can prove the same. Water seeks its own level. Mainstream science wants you to ignore your experience and instead believe that an invisible force, which cannot be replicated, detected, or proven in a lab, is responsible for bending oceans, lakes, and rivers, and has created uniform spherical bulges in water measuring thousands of miles deep. Here's a video from DM Murphy 25, who goes by the moniker Allegedly Dave.
If the Earth bends the water into a sphere around it, then if it was to freeze suddenly, we should detect a hump in the water, shouldn't we? So why is it that when Lake Baikal in Siberia freezes over, it is one of the flattest places on Earth, despite being 395 miles long and 49 miles wide? There should be a hump in the middle of it, nearly 20 miles high. So why haven't we ever seen curved water?
William Weissman wrote, "The surface of all water, when not agitated by natural causes such as winds, tides, earthquakes, etc., is perfectly level. The sense of sight proves this to every unprejudiced and unreasonable mind. Can any so-called scientist who teaches that the Earth is a whirling globe take a heap of liquid water, whirl it around, and so make rotundity? He cannot. Therefore, it is utterly impossible to prove that an ocean is a whirling rotund section of a globular Earth, rushing through space at the lying given rate of false philosophers." Now, official science has done their best to explain away the proof of Robotham, and even fabricated an erroneous test to disprove him, but I will show here in the following videos, made by a variety of flat earthers, that Robotham was 100% right. There is absolutely no measurable curvature of the Earth, even though the curvature should be easily detectable with modern instruments and experienced in everyday life. This is a fact and constitutes the primary proof of the flat Earth, and alone sways the argument in favor of the flat Earth. Refraction, which we will be taking a look at later, simply does not account for all of the video and photographic evidence proving that boats, islands, mountains, buildings, beaches, etc. are not hidden behind a curvature as required by the official dimensions of the Earth. But you don't have to believe me or anyone else. As I have done, you can test this evidence yourself with an ultra-zoom digital camera like the Nikon P900, which makes this evidence very dangerous to the official story. Now here's a quick video I took at Bear Lake, Utah. My first knee-jerk response when I first heard the no curvature argument was that the Earth is so big that you wouldn't be able to measure the curvature. This is a very common response by ball believers, but it is absolutely wrong. The curvature should be detectable. Boats should disappear behind the curvature of the Earth, but they don't. What astounds nearly everyone is how much drop in curvature there is based on the official dimensions of the alleged globe Earth, and how this curvature should be measurable and noticed. This absolutely shocked me when I first learned about the curvature based on the supposed mainstream accepted dimensions of the Earth. Now, these calculations are very accurate and not reasonably questionable. So, based on the official dimensions of the globe, at just 10 miles of distance, easily visible with binoculars, you should have a 67-foot drop in curvature. That is, 67 feet should be hidden from view. At 100 miles away, there should be an amazing 6,666-foot drop in curvature. That is to say, 1.26 miles should be hidden away from view. Again, these calculations are 100% correct and have been affirmed through computer drafting software. There is an adjustment for the observer's height, but you will see in these videos that the height adjustment does not affect the flat results. Now, how do you calculate the curvature of the Earth? The distance below the curvature, or that how much of the object should be hidden behind the Earth, is calculated by squaring the distance to the object in miles and multiplying the answer by 8 inches, as shown in this chart. Remember, this is trigonometric math based on the official globe model dimensions. This formula is easy math that every child should know. We all learned that E equals mc squared, which is never used by anyone and proves nothing, but we never learned how quickly objects dip below the curvature. Simple math that can be demonstrated and proven across schools everywhere. Now, don't you find that strange? Because I certainly did. Now, as shown in this table, after just the first few miles, the curvature becomes so great that there should be no difficulty in detecting it. This can be tested on land as well, as you can see mountains in the far distance that should be substantially below the curvature, but never are. This curvature chart is proven accurate, but it is ignored by all of the naysayers. Now, this chart alone proved to me that there is something seriously wrong about the official model, as I can say that I have never experienced this much curvature, and I love to travel. What about you? Did you witness a hump of Earth 694 miles tall when you took that flight or drove from Los Angeles to New York? Did you witness a sloping tall mountain of 6,667 feet when you recently drove just 100 miles? Or did the world seem flat to you, excluding mountains, hills, valleys, etc.? Kansas has a width of 410 miles. Do you know how much curvature that is? 21 miles. Do you really think that there's a giant hump of Earth 21 miles tall from one end of Kansas to the other? I guarantee that 99% of the people in Kansas would say that's impossible. Telescopic and laser measurements reach the same conclusion. There's absolutely no curvature. It's not detectable anywhere it has been tested. Furthermore, no one ever taught you the Earth's curvature math at school or college. Why? Every engineer, surveyor, mathematician, artilleryman, and astronomer should have a thorough understanding of the curvature and cite exactly how much curvature there is per mile and be able to demonstrate it through simple experimentation and measurement, but no one does or cares. Why? If you're new to the flat Earth and are still skeptical, you may argue that you have seen boats disappear over the curvature, or that you saw the curvature from an airplane. However, these common knee-jerk responses you heard in school are provably wrong, as will be shown. First, you can bring the boats, hull and all, back into view with a powerful telescope. The boats are disappearing behind the atmosphere, into a mirage, or just so small that they disappear behind the closer waves and swells. And the video proof is compelling. Now let's begin with a film that I took at Willard Bay, Utah with my wife, at the other end of the bay, carrying a mirror to reflect the sunlight. Taking into consideration the height of the camera, there is 12 feet of curvature missing at the 6.23 miles of distance. On a side note, I actually chose Willard Bay for my first test because my brother claimed that he could see that the curvature was hiding the other side. After seeing my results, he now understands that his assumption was wrong.
Along the beach. It's at 6 miles away. Unfortunately, it's very windy right now, so I don't even know if you can hear me well. She is walking straight towards the water level, and she's going to put the mirror right at the water. So you can get a perspective of how far away we are.
For this next test of mine, my wife and I went to Utah Lake and tested a spotlight at 7.56 miles across the water. I chose to use a light for this test because an engineer professional told me that there is no way that a spotlight would somehow shine around the curvature of the Earth. At 7.56 miles, there is 21 missing feet of curvature in the test. That is impossible on a globe, whether you consider refraction or not.
Okay, I'm gonna do zoom out and zoom in. You know, it's actually bright enough you can almost see it with the naked eye.
Are you sure? Right?
Yeah, I mean, you turn it off several times. Oh, there you are. See, I can see you. Oh, I'm zoomed out. Turn it on and off, and I can definitely see you from.
Or flicker or whatever.
Okay, I'm gonna zoom out. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. I can't see you now, but keep flickering it.
Yeah, flickering it.
Wow.
Exact same thing.
I think we could get a 10-mile shot. I'm not sure we should try it right now since my phone's dead.
But I haven't been the only one out testing the curvature over water. Here's a terrific compilation video from COFO72. Part of this video for my buddy Wide Awake in Florida in my introduction video, but I did want you to see the whole thing as it demonstrates exactly what happens to boats as they disappear into the distance. He filmed the footage with the Nikon P900. For brevity, I've increased the speed around 10 times. Disappear behind the atmosphere and mirages or become so small that they disappear behind waves, not the curvature. Also explains why objects cannot be viewed across extreme distances on a flat Earth with a powerful telescope. In short, many objects that should be hidden sometimes behind thousands of feet of curvature are clearly visible with an ultra-zoom camera, and the official excuses of refraction and looming are insufficient explanations. Now, I really like this next video from Epithay, Philadelphia, who demonstrates how the atmosphere can create an opaque mirror line and also distorts the image with stretching and compression. Her video clearly proves that the boats do not disappear behind a curvature. Again, go to our channel and watch the full video, as it's terrific.
Welcome to the empty horizon. Keep in mind that this is an empty horizon. There are no visible boats. As we zoom in, we see two boats appear along what I call the wavefront edge, which is the blue line of last discernible water. We also can see, as we zoom in further, something I call the mirror line. It is a reflection that forms under the boats after they pass the wavefront edge. Two major structural landmarks for this large ship are the top of the mast and also the top of the bridge, which could be considered the top of the body of the boat. It is clearly very large. The mast represents approximately 1/3 of the full height of the boat. Instruments and equipment attached to the mast structure create a visual line that divides the mast approximately in half. This interval therefore represents approximately 1/6 of the overall height over the water. As our target ship passes behind another boat, we can see that it is not going slowly. It is doing something that mariners call making a land against the other boat in a noticeable fashion. We can also note that although the wavefront line is the same, it's consistent for our point of view, the mirror lines are different and unique to each object that is being reflected. The next time that this ship passes against other boats, we have a demonstration of the foreground, midground, and background effect. None of these boats is particularly close to one another in real space, but they look as if they are based on composition. May I also note again that this is not a slow-moving boat. It is traveling at significant speed over water. The background sailboat demonstrates for us an additional factor, the low-lying mist layer that sits over the water and acts as a distorting lens. Both effects are very well illustrated by this next motorboat, seen here entering on the left. The variations in density of the suspended water create visual distortions not unlike that of antique glass. The distortion is most observable in real time rather than when it is paused. And then another, much larger ferry passes inside the band of distortion with its own nearer mirror line. As I take this moment to zoom out and observe the overall structure, keep in mind that now the ship appears to be shorter than the channel marker, and yet 1/3 of it appears to be mast, and 2/3 of it appears to be boat. Oh, and I'd almost forgotten. This started out as an empty horizon. Yeah, I mean, like, totally empty. There wasn't anything on it when we started, and that was 18 minutes ago.
Here are two videos from my friend BMLSB69 in California, who continues to conduct many tests that are valuable in our search for truth, and his latest one about the moon is spectacular. The next video is from CBS in New Zealand. This video was instrumental for me in swaying me to the flat earth, and so I needed to share it here with everyone.
Let's go check out these mountains. Okay, zooming out and over the South Island. They're a bit further away than I thought. Yeah, that's quite a distance. That's, wow, 93 and 81 miles. I had no idea they were that far. Okay, I found this on the web. It's to help measure curvature, and it takes into account the height above sea level that you're measuring from. As you can see, 12 feet, that corresponds to the height on the jetty that I took these photos. Wow, so from the Dace Bay Wharf, undercover should be obscured up to 1604 meters, so that only leaves 1,000 meters that we should be seeing, but it seems we can see pretty much all the way down to sea level. That's a whole mile which should be obscured by the horizon. I don't think we're seeing that. Let's go back to those first shots we took at Orfido Bay, because one of those has got a perfect profile, missing the mountain to the right a little bit, but we should be able to figure out what's what. Check this out. I'll end the video with this. Make up your own mind.
The following video is from John McIntyre. Now, John is brilliant and objective, and came up with a clever way of measuring the curvature at the tops of mountains. He demonstrated that you can even conduct flat earth tests anywhere. As you will hear from John, he is at a loss as to what he witnessed on top of those mountains. You need to go to his channel and watch the entire video, as I can't do it justice here with just a few minutes of segments. As you watch it though, ask yourself, do you really think that that refraction is bending the view over the curvature of the earth at the top of the mountains as well as it supposedly does at the ocean level? It doesn't make sense to me.
Here is the actual shot, and this is the shot. The one that I was trying to get the whole time. This observation shows these mountains on a flat plane. Now, I don't know why that is. I mean, I can evaluate evidence and tell you that that's what the evidence says, and I don't see any evidence for refraction. Every single time I went up there trying to capture this evidence, the mountains were at the exact same position. They didn't raise up and lower down. Refraction wasn't moving them around. There was no, unless it was consistently moving them up or down the same way every single time. And every single day since that I've been up at Shining Rock, and I've probably gone there 12 or 15 times since, and I'm always looking over at those mountains. I have like a little line of sight that I can use to check, and the mountains are always exactly the same height. They don't move around. If refraction is occurring, it's the same refraction every single time, consistently, without fail. This shot I find to be completely bizarre. Do I believe that the Earth is flat? That's a big leap to make, a really big leap, to actually believe in a conspiracy theory of that size. It is craziness. But what am I supposed to do with this evidence? I don't really know. Honestly, I don't really know. But I felt compelled to make this video. I felt compelled to collect irrefutable evidence one way or the other, so I could end the internal debate I was having about it and answer the questions I was having regarding Flat Earth, because I did find the debate interesting. What we're going to do is we're going to freeze the shot right here, and this is the shot that I was attempting to capture the whole entire time. And this is Frying Pan Mountain, as you already know. This is Graybeard. This is Pinnacle, which, as you can see, is roughly 255 feet taller than Graybeard Mountain, and that's kind of the average of all the different sources. And then there's Bald Knob, and this is roughly where the top of Graybeard Mountain should be. So, this is our outline of our mountains, then our mountains should actually be roughly down about here, not up here. So if we go by the mainstream accepted and taught curvature formula for the spherical surface of the Earth, then Graybeard Mountain should not even be visible. We shouldn't be able to see it.
The next video is from Flatter Globe, who tests a mountain 100 miles away by filming it over the Great Salt Lake. Remember, there should be a 6,667 feet of curvature at 100 miles. Flatter Globe has done a few other tests which are very excellent as well.
20 feet, 59.57. Okay, 59.57, 59.57. That means it's going to be 222 feet below the horizon when I'm looking at this point. That mountain is 220 feet below my horizon. Do you guys see that mountain? Yeah, so do I. So I know that that is not actually below my horizon. So many of you are going to say, well, that's because of refraction. Okay, whatever. Give me a calculator that actually can prove that that's refraction and not just what I'm seeing every single time I go out there. And maybe I'll listen to you. But I've seen this every time, that it's actually clear enough. The only time I haven't seen it is when it's hazy and you just can't even see that far to begin with.
The curvature has also been tested with high-powered lasers. Jeranism also made a great video testing a laser across the water. But here's one of my favorites from Dr. Zach's YouTube video channel. In response to the fraudulent test supposedly conducted by Stephen Hawking in his television show called Genius by Stephen Hawking.
Get it? Huh? Just 3 miles away, the laser seems to have risen by 6 feet.
So his boat was almost at the same distance as our boat, 3 miles away, which is almost 5 kilometers. And his laser pointer was at 2.7 feet, but our laser was even lower than that. It was at 1.6 feet, and he claimed that the curvature was 6 feet in 3 miles. Well, guess what, Mr. Steven? You are a liar. But I'm gonna let our man tell you this.
Look, Mr. Stephen Hawking, I knew you were lying, but I didn't have the definite proof to prove you wrong. But your deception made me repeat this experiment to discard your so-called evidence. We got a boat at 5 kilometers or 3.1 miles away from the laser pointer, and the laser beam was exactly at 50 centimeters, which is 1.6 feet above the water surface, and we didn't notice or experience any curvature drop at all.
With all of these examples, I think we have proven that there's no measurable curvature. Now, a few of the videos we have watched have mentioned refraction, and you will hear this word thrown out all the time. The ball believers claim that all of the footage you have seen showing that there is no curvature was caused only by fraction, meaning the object hidden behind the curvature somehow bends in an arc over the ball Earth. I'm going to spend some time on addressing the refraction issue, as it is the primary defense of the ball believer. Here's a demonstration video of mine, roughly showing what the ball believers claim is happening. That the object image, once hidden behind the curvature of the Earth, somehow arcs over the spherical Earth, and so it makes it appear as though the Earth is flat. With all of the footage that I've shown you from sea level to the tops of the mountains, do you reasonably think that refraction is bending objects above the curvature so that the world appears flat? Here's my video again. Do you think that the video of my wife carrying the mirror has been bent over a curvature? It's nonsense. Of course, atmospheric refraction is real. However, refraction does not enable one to see beyond the curve of the Earth. That's just silly. Refraction only obscures the flat horizon behind an opaque mirage and atmospheric distortion, and this happens often and is provable. Now, there's a whole host of propagandists hired to shut down the intellectual investigation of the flat Earth. These propagandists, who will show up in the YouTube discussion below, incessantly ridicule and call flat earthers names, knowing that such negative peer pressure unfortunately causes at least 50% of the population to run away from the truth. These propagandists who sold their soul for 30 pieces of silver are the lowest scum of the earth. In addition, the propagandists concentrate on attacking straw man arguments to bolster their credibility. The propagandists espouse non sequiturs, or employ irrelevant but complex math to cloud the discussion and to exhibit a false intelligence. Hear them out, but don't fall for their trickery. What you won't see from the propagandists is a discussion of non-biased tests that we can all agree on in determining whether the Earth is a twirling ball. They will never agree to an objective test like the one being done by the engineer Brian Mullen called Force the Line. Please understand that billions of dollars are invested in this conspiracy, and these evil men are not going to roll over and raise the white flag. But don't let them interfere with your honest investigation of the truth. More of these tactics will be discussed in another video called The Cover-Up. But one of the main arguments of the propagandists is to take a video, like the following one of Toronto, and claim that it proves the curvature. The paid-for propagandists know better and are lying to you. As you will see in the Skunk Bay video that will be included in Jeranism's video, atmospheric refraction, or rough sea, obscuring a flat horizon is not proof of a curvature. I will show you further evidence as well from Jeranism's channel, which will show that there is no curvature when filming the Toronto skyline. Watch this valuable video from Jeranism, which includes a tremendous demonstration from Skunk Bay, Washington, as to how refraction only obscures objects on a flat plane, but does not cause images of objects on a globe to bend over the curvature.
Now watch carefully what goes on as this day progresses. We're at about 7:30 a.m. right now, so you need to watch carefully what happens as the heat comes and around 11 to 12 o'clock and beyond, and definitely when we get to 5 and 6 p.m. And this is what I mean when I say that science lies, because science knows what's going on here, and they also know what it entails, and so they hide it. And that just simply isn't science. It's religion, it's dogma, and it's nonsense. So watch the piece of land behind the water there, and you'll clearly see what happens as the water mirages, the warmer the day gets. So take the time to watch the temperature as it nears 65 and 66 degrees, and as the weather changes, how the land behind the water seemingly will disappear behind the wall or the curvature, and when really the water is just becoming a mirage, and it basically mirrors itself or what's behind it. Kind of acts as a lens. So this video is awesome at showing us exactly what's happening when we see boats supposedly go over the curvature. Imagine, if you will, that a boat was docked at the shore across the bay here, and around 6 or 7 p.m. that boat would fall behind the wall of water. Obviously, from this video, we know that's not what's going on. So again, from this video alone, you should know now that it's not boats going over the curvature, but let's dig into Red's video and show you exactly what's happening. Alright, and here we go. Now, the question we aim to answer is, does this boat ever go over the curvature of the Earth? It does completely seem like an easy answer, a no-brainer, and I'm sure many of you have seen this video before, and so that's what you're thinking right now. Well, pretty soon you'll see it as a no-curver. And as I said in my video, Boats Prove No Curvature, there is no curvature of the Earth, and therefore boats go over no such thing. So just keep your eyes peeled. There'll be plenty of things I need to point out to you to pay attention to, and by the end, in a mere 15 minutes, you will no longer believe that boats go over any such curvature. So we've got another little boat coming along here. scootin' dootin', and we're going to pause it here in a second and I'll show you why. If you look carefully, this is the line of the water. Now the reason for that is if you zoom in, you can clearly see that these are all reflections. They are not any different part of the boat. This is a reflected image off the water line, which is a little bit past the water line that we can see. It is a mirage effect, also a mirroring effect, and we'll show more of that as time goes on. But you can see that clearly that is the line at the bottom of the boat. It is definitely a reflected image, as you can see here. You can even see the waves in the water slightly past the water line. So now we look up at the boat again and see it taken off. And if you kind of look carefully here, you can already start to see the same thing is happening. You can see the water in front of the boat in between where the water line is and the actual boat. We'll try and zoom in here the best we can, and you should be able to see that that is clearly not the decor or the paint job of the boat. Sorry, let's scoot over here a little bit. There we go. And again, you can see the reflection of the water line. Look at the, call that a red circle right in the middle there, and you can see right through the center of it is the water line. I put a superimposed copy of the boat next to it so you could see that that is not the boat's direction, or sorry, that's not the boat's decoration. And the blue little waves over there tells you where the water is. So let's continue. Now if you look at it, it kind of makes sense. You can see that red dot, and you can see the water is right up to the center of that red dot. You can see the waviness of it. Okay, now here, again, you might look at that and say, well, what happened to the red dot? And that is what is being miraged or mirrored by the water here. In fact, at the very front of the boat, you might see the white section towards the front bottom left there, and you may think that's the boat. It isn't the boat, it's actually a reflection of the sail. And if you were to look closely here, you can see that the entire boat is reflected in the water again, and the blue squiggly lines are an example of the water. So this is what is actually happening when we see boats supposedly go over the curvature. Now again, it is easy to understand why the ancients would have thought that that's what was happening. But in today's day and age, there's no more excuses. Now here I put a little arrow, and if you watch carefully, right at that line, you will see clearly the waves of water as they run by the boat, and you can see the reflection of the left sail in the water. That's not the boat, that is a reflection. Just like in this image here of the sunset, that is not the sun melting into the water, that is the actual water. Kind of reminds you of this image here, this gentleman walking on a mirage street, and obviously the bottom of his body has been eaten up. And that is what's happening on the ocean when we look at boats. The bottom of the boat has been eaten up. Here you can look underneath that right sail. There's nothing there, whereas the actual boat, which I superimposed, had different sections of the boat there.
At this point, it looks like only the sail is visible. Kick ass.
Yeah, Red. Kick ass. See, if you really were all about science, you'd conduct non-biased tests, not ones with a clear motive to prove current known facts. See, I'm challenging those facts, and well, I just knocked one of them off its perch. Now you can see here what most people would have taken as the entire sail of the boat, that the boat had gone over the curvature, but again, there is no boat behind any curve. You can see that little notch there would be the bottom of the sail. It is reflecting, and that's all you're seeing is the reflection of the sail on the water and the sail itself, and the boat is masked right behind that little divot. It's camouflaged. Again, the blue waves are water. Let's keep going. So you can watch that little notch, and if you kind of keep your eye on it, you can see how it starts to blend. And now we've got what people think is a sail, but that's not the sail of the boat. That is the sail and its reflection. Again, if you aren't convinced by this, hold on tight, it gets better. So now we fast forward a little bit further. And to anybody, this would look like, clearly, the boat is on the other side of the curvature. So that's what you would think. But then we'll zoom in over here at this boat racing in. And what do you see? Do you see the waves in the wake that this boat is kicking up? It's kicking up waves that are not part of the water that we can see. It's part of the backwater, the camouflage water. Look carefully, and you can clearly see that it is riding in the area that is being camouflaged and is being reflected off the sailboat. It is not riding in the water. It's riding in the actual water, but the water that's behind that hard edge, the water line is about here, and again, the curvy lines, blue lines, are the water. So let's continue on. So far, we've got no boat behind any curvature. It just doesn't happen. Again, you can see that boat riding on the invisible water. It's not riding on the water that it looks like to us. So now I added some gamma so that we could get a better view of what we were looking at. And I'll have you watch carefully because things get interesting. And keep your eye on the screen here. And as we super zoom in, we can actually watch where the waterline is. And how do we know that? Well, look at the reflection behind it. We can see that that item is reflecting off that waterline, which means the sails are a reflection and the boat is simply camouflaged or hidden behind that. Nothing is behind any curvature of any earth at all. Again, it does get better. We're going to start seeing lots of birds, and the birds are going to be the key to knowing where that waterline is. Here comes a bird here. I drew the waterline for you, and you'll see the reflection of the bird as he goes into the water. Start to keep an eye on these birds. You're going to see them left and right. Here comes another one. Did you see that one? Leaving on the right-hand side. Rewind it if you need to.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping. And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp. When my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking.
You're now looking at the city of Toronto from across the lake. There's the CN Tower. There's the base of it. The base of the CN Tower. Zoom in a little more. Quite interesting, the anomalies. That's fully zoomed with the P900. The base of the CN Tower. I'm going to zoom out. City of Toronto, ladies and gentlemen. From across the lake in Port Dalhousie. There's a freighter sitting in the lake. It's the Mont Blanc. We're now going to pan around and show you where we are on the southern shores of Lake Ontario and Port Dalhousie. Gonna just pan around, let you see where we are. Don't get motion sick. And there's a street sign. We're on Bayview Drive and Ann Street in Port Dalhousie.
You'll notice a few things. Number one, that the water looks to be a mirage. We'll look at that again. It's hazy and distorted. Number two, we saw definitely where he filmed from. Number three, we got a good look at all the buildings. And number four, it wasn't a very nice day or very clear. Our calculator, the link is in the description below, says at 32 miles and 20 feet eye level that 469 feet should be hidden. So this first image shows that the entire CN tower is 1,815 feet. And from that, I also knew that the building immediately to the right of the CN tower is 687 feet. Once you know both those, you can take the distance between them, which was 1128, and split that in half, and that's how I got the blue line is equal to 564. The red line is equal to 1128. And then knowing that the building to the immediate left there, the tallest building on the left, is 486 feet, I was able to create 200-foot segments in yellow, as you see, because the difference between 486 and 687 was the 200, and that tells us where about the bottoms of the buildings are. So first thing you should notice is we see way more than we should. That is quite obvious. The building on the right of the CN tower is 687 feet, and remember the tallest building to the left is 486 feet. So just with those numbers alone, it is ridiculous that we can only see, or that 469 feet is supposed to be cut off. Just look at the size of those buildings on the left. The highest building we should be able to see on the left would be 17 feet. Yet we see basically the buildings in their totality. Here, if you look at the water, this is something I've been trying to get across, or trying to prove, that I believe that that last little segment of water is actually a mirage. As you can see, it's distorted, it's hazy, and also it's always miscolored. So if you take a look at other videos where you see Chicago skyline or Toronto skyline, you'll see that it's just a different band there, and that band is about equal to the amount of distance that we're missing to the bottom of those buildings. So like I said, we shouldn't see anything on the left, yet we see a ton. And we know that the building on the right, like we said, 687 feet. And if you just go back to the drawing I did where we figured out some exact numbers, there's no way you should be able to see anything more than 200 feet of that building. Now here we're going to zoom back in, and I'll show you why. Again, even if you took that number they want you to believe in as far as refraction, the 15%, it still does not explain at all why we see so much of these buildings. Now here, take a look at that red arrow. Keep your eye right on that white dome of that building, and as we start to fade away, you'll see it fall behind the curvature. Same thing as boats do. Same thing, the example that we give when we say zooming in on a boat would allow you to pick it back up after it's gone over the curvature. And again, if there's a curvature out there in the middle of the water, how is it not pouring onto the shore on this side or pouring onto the shore on that side? It simply is not a curve. It's simply flat. It's simply level. It's sea level. It's water level. And then a thank you to Fakeologist for the video. Excellent example of how the Earth does not curve nearly as much as it would need to be a 25,000 mile circumference globe. But we should all know that because, well, you can't live on a ball.
In addition to there being no measurable curvature at the ground, there is no curvature at an altitude of at least 121,000 feet, as proven via video of weather balloons and others. Thus, you did not see a curvature in an airplane at 30,000 feet, and very likely witness an optical illusion caused by a curved window. Besides NASA and other space agencies, what about all those photos and videos showing a curvature of the Earth from parachutes, airplanes, weather balloons, etc.? Now, all those photos and videos of the supposed Earth's curvature were filmed with fisheye or wide-angle lenses like the GoPro, which created a false curvature effect. This isn't a theory, because you can easily witness the distortion as the alleged curvature alters between convex and concave during the Felix Baumgartner jump or any other GoPro footage that you look up on YouTube. After the Felix Baumgartner video, you will see an excellent response by Rob Skiba, who goes into further detail. But before we get to the Red Bull jump, I wanted to show you another extraordinary piece of footage from a weather balloon taken by Dogcam at 110,000 feet. I've included this footage to not only show you that there is no curvature, but to show you the lighted spot directly under the sun. When I first saw this footage, I knew there was something wrong about it. It didn't seem to move like I thought it would move. You will see a subsequent analysis by P-Brain. If authentic, the Dogcam footage is a strong piece of evidence in support of a flat Earth and a local sun that is not 93 million miles away.
There's the sunspot I'm talking about. Notice it never moves in its position in the clouds. It doesn't move around where a reflection of the sun would move around, which I'll show you in my experiment coming up. Right now, see, it's locked in its position on the cloud. It is not moving. It is moving, even though the camera's moving up and down, side to side. That reflection should be following the eye in the camera. The light above the door represents the sun. That's my sun. And the floor is the clouds, the tile floor. Okay, there's a reflection of the light that's above the door. Now, I'm moving the camera around, and notice how it moves. It stays between me and the source, which is the sun or the light above the door, right? As I move left, it moves left. If I squat down, it comes towards me. If I raise back up, it goes back to the center. I go to the right, it goes to the right. In other words, so it stays in front, or it stays between me and the source. I moved the flashlight over here close to the reflecting yellow light for a better comparison. I have the flashlight hanging over the floor producing the blue spotlight. The yellow round light on the floor is the reflection of the light over the front door, and the floor represents the top of the clouds. Notice that as I move the camera around, the yellow reflection moves all over the place, but the blue spotlight stays in the same place relative to the floor. Just like in the Dogcam video, the spot produced by the sun stays in the same spot relative to the clouds and does not move.
If you're scared and walk away, 'cause there's no need to feel ashamed. Yeah, we all feel the same. Where's your passion? Where's your fire
Alright, now, the whole road is looking now. I'm going over now.
in my blog series at testingtheglobe.com, I've shown that the alleged curvature is not even detectable at 120,000 feet when people send up weather balloons with cameras not fitted with a fisheye lens. And by that, I'm talking about, there's some videos that I have on my website there, and you can do videos yourself, do some searches on YouTube for videos of people doing high altitude weather balloon tests where they're sending up weather balloons. And if they have it fitted with a camera that doesn't use a fisheye lens, I mean, that thing's going up to 120, 121, 127,000 feet and spinning in 360 degrees and showing the horizon flat as a pancake, as opposed to the Red Bull video or, you know, typical NASA video, which is always, it seems like always shot with a fisheye lens. And that's easy to tell when they're using a fisheye lens. First of all, like in the Red Bull deal, when that dude gets out of the capsule and stands out and they cut to the camera outside looking at him, the curve of the Earth is so ridiculous. The size of the planet would have to be less than that of the moon. And that dude would have to be jumping from like millions of miles away, or at least hundreds of thousands of miles away. I mean, the curve is just insane. And whenever the camera tilts at certain angles, I mean, it goes from convex to flat to concave to flat to convex to you know, it's going all over. It's an incredible morphing Earth. That's what happens when you use a fisheye lens.
As a final footage, I wanted to include this video from David Wise from Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. He shows how the $1 billion Orion rocket launch looks exactly like a cheap weather balloon launch, which usually run about $500. But at least according to the NASA footage, the Earth is still flat at supposedly 400,000 feet. Conclusions. I believe we have reached the following conclusions in this video. 1. Water seeks its own level, and there's no proof that water can uniformly wrap around a ball as a result from gravity. 2. Based on the official dimensions of the globe, there is no measurable curvature over water, land, and high altitudes as proven through many video examples. 3. The curvature should be easily detectable but isn't. 4. Boats do not disappear over the curvature, but disappear behind A, the atmosphere, B, opaque mirage effects, and or C, the object simply decreases in size by distance and perspective and is obscured by waves, swells, etc. 5. Refraction is a false explanation as to how objects that should be hidden behind the curvature are clearly visible. Refraction only obscures distant objects on a flat plane. It does not cause distant images to bend over a curvature, as proven in the Skunk Bay time-lapse footage. 6. NASA and other official groups often use fisheye lenses to create a curvature when there is none. For example, the Felix Baumgartner jump. This is very common. Be wary and look out for the fisheye lens. And 7. The sun appears much closer than 93 million miles away and can produce a hot spot, not a reflection, directly under the sun, which is impossible under the heliocentric model. Although I probably should have discussed this in the introduction video, I did want to quickly address the big question of why. Now, there are some possibilities, and I believe they're all legitimate, and one possibility would be to hide land. Another would be to hide resources. A third one that seems more likely to me is to simply keep the human cattle within their fences so that they don't roam too far away from their controllers. Another option is that the spherical shape acts like a mental control to the development of the human mind. I think George Orwell explained this very well in his book 1984, who presciently wrote the following, quote, "O'Brien silenced him by a movement of the hand. We control matter because we control the mind. Reality is inside the school. You will learn by degrees, Winston. There's nothing that we could not do. Invisibility, levitation, anything. I could float off this floor like a soap bubble if I wished to. I do not wish to because the party does not wish it. You must get rid of these 19th century ideas about the laws of nature. We make the laws of nature. But the whole universe is outside us. Look at the stars. Some of them are 1,000,000 light years away. They are out of reach forever." "What are the stars?" said O'Brien indifferently. "They are bits of fire a few kilometers away. We could reach them if we wanted to, or we could just blot them out. The Earth is the center of the universe. The sun and the stars go round it. When we navigate the ocean or when we predict an eclipse, we often find it convenient to assume the Earth goes around the sun and the stars are millions upon millions of kilometers away. But what of it? Do you suppose it is beyond us to produce a dual system of astronomy? The stars can be near or distant according as we need them. Do you suppose our mathematicians are unequal to that? Have you forgotten doublethink?" In other words, the government can make you believe whatever you want to believe. But I do think there may be a darker side to the flat earth conspiracy, and that's to hide God, as the globe model constitutes the foundation of discarding God and accepting the one world religion of scientism, which includes the Big Bang and evolution. And here's a quote from Lucifer. It was a publication back in 1887. And I find this very disturbing. It states, "We date from the 1st of January 1601. This era is called the era of man, to distinguish it from the theological epoch that preceded it. In that epoch, the earth was supposed to be flat. The sun was its attendant light revolving about it. Above was heaven, where God ruled supreme over all potentates and powers. Below was the kingdom of the dead, hell. So taught the Bible. Then came the new astronomy. It demonstrated that the earth is a globe revolving about the sun, that there is no up and down in space. Vanished the old heaven, vanished the old hell. The earth became the home of man. And when the modern cosmogony came, the Bible and the church, as infallible oracles, had to go, for they had taught that regarding the universe which was shown to be true and untrue in every particular."